Welcome to In the Room, where we explore the elusive world of casting for film, TV, and commercials. Join us as we interview directors, writers, producers, and actors, taking a deep dive into their experiences with casting and how the ultimate decisions are made in bringing a story to the screen. Get an inside look at casting and find out what really goes on in the room. Hi, I'm Heather Kafka, and I'm an actor.
Hello, I'm John Williams. I'm a casting director, and
today we're in the room with the amazing Kelly Williams. He is a creative producer and the co-founder of 10 Acre Films. His current project, All That We Love, directed by Yen Tan, recently world premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival this June and is getting rave reviews for Margaret Cho's dramatic turn, and I can't wait to see it. His latest features include What Happens Later, starring Meg Ryan and David Duchovny, The Senior, directed by Rod Lurie, Mark, Mary, and Some Other People in Tribeca 2021, No Future in Tribeca 2021, starring Catherine Keener, I Used to Go Here in South by Southwest 2020, and the short film Rules for Werewolves, Toronto, IFF 2020. He has produced 6 feature films that premiered at the Sundance Film Festival, including Light from Light, Sorry to Bother You, which is an Independent Spirit Award winner, The Long Dumb Road, Hellion, Viva Trilogy Part 4, and Pit Stop, Independent Spirit Awards nominee. Sundance short film premieres include Hellion, Black Metal, The Send-Off, and Don't Be a Hero. In addition, he has produced multiple films that premiered at South by Southwest, including 6 Years, 1985, and the award-winning A Bad Idea Gone Wrong, and the Suplex Duplex Complex. If you haven't seen that, try to see that.
Say it 3 times fast.
The Suplex Duplex Complex. A 2019 Independent Spirit Award Producer to Watch nominee, Williams is also a Sundance Institute Creative Producing Fellow and a Sundance Institute Catalyst Fellow. He is a past advisor for the Sundance Collab, a past lecturer at the University of Tennessee, and a current lecturer at the University of Texas at Austin. Prior to producing, he worked as a film programmer for various film festivals and was awarded the 2007 International Film Festival Summit Excellence Award for his work at the Austin Film Festival. Try harder, Kelly. I mean,
I gotta shorten that.
Like,
how did your audience just turned it off because they're like, "Oh, this guy."
So you really didn't want to get into film. You weren't really.
That's not what I wanted to
do. Goodness gracious. Although I do have to say, like, when it comes to producers, this is the thing I'm always so curious about. Is like, I feel like, you know, directors, it's like you can see them coming a mile away. And like actors are like the hams when they're little kids and they're on stage and all this and that and the other. And, you know, writers are writers and so-and-sos go to school for whatever, yada, yada. And I feel like producers just fall out of the fucking sky. Like they just show up on set one day.
Kinda.
And they just are already this fully formed.
I think they come through the back door and say, "Stop! No,
okay, yeah.
No.
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Yeah,
why are you doing it this way?"
Right, but like, you know, at the end of the day, they're kind of stealthy too, because like at the end of it all, when the Academy Award for Best Picture is announced, we give it to them. So like, they're a little bit of this like creative person with a little bit of the words and a little bit of the business person and a little bit of the money and a little bit of the like people person and the manager and the micro and the all of it's like you're the whole omnipresent person who is creating the thing. But like, where is that born in you? Like, how does that start for you?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, first of all, thanks for having me.
Yes, of course.
Also, thanks for being here.
Like long-time listener, first-time caller. Always wanted to say that. Never had an opportunity. That's a really good question. Where does it start? I don't know. I think for me, like, I have always loved movies. So like from a very young age. And you know, you think you want to direct, everyone's like, oh, I either want to act or direct or maybe write, you know? And so I think, you know, I went into film school thinking I would direct or whatever, but somewhere along the way, I realized like putting things together was something I could do, you know, organizing things, you know. And that sort of made sense to me. And then, and I think that's kind of where it came from for me. I realized early on I could tell a lot more stories as a producer, or help tell a lot more stories as a producer, because you can, if you're lucky, you can make more than one movie in a year. And I think that was a big part of it too.
I mean, don't you find yourself being like, well, who's going to do it?
Yeah.
Like when you're with creatives, right? You're like, well, who's going to call to get the location?
Yeah.
Like,
in college, that's how it happened. Like I ended up producing a lot of friends' movies because no one else wanted to do it.
They want to sit and talk about the creative.
Yeah. Like who we're going to put in it or whatever. And it's just like, what's it going to look like and who's going to shoot it and all that. And it was like, well, where are we going to shoot it? You know, like that's a big question.
Yeah.
So I think that was, you know, that all came kind of natural in a way. It was like, you know, it was all event organizing basically.
Yeah.
You know, you're just putting something together. So
Yeah. I often say that we're like carnivals. We just show up. We put the trucks in and set up the magic, you know, do the magic, then we just break down and leave.
Totally.
That's and then so what I'm curious about is just your journey, because I've been inside your journey and your process of like putting this shit together. Like you live in this world that I find is probably the most difficult world to try to finance and put things together and make things happen. Like, which is a hats off to you, because you just keep making these great films happen.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, it's the hardest part.
Yeah.
You know, I think I have a different background than a lot of producers I know, because I started off right after I graduated college. I was kind of like, I think I want to do producing. And then I also was simultaneously like volunteering at a lot of local festivals, like the old Cinema Texas Festival and South by Southwest and Austin Film Festival. And I kind of, and Sundance, I was volunteering there every year. And I did that 3 years in a row after I graduated. And I didn't realize that I had put together like a film festival resume on accident. And so that kind of led to some seasonal work at Austin Film Festival, which eventually led to a programming gig, which I did for like 11 years. And so that sort of taught me, it's a very long grad school, but it was kind of like my grad school.
Which is super smart, because you're meeting all the right people.
Yeah. I mean, after I left that and started producing, the first several movies I produced were, you know, from filmmakers I'd programmed, you know, that I knew their work already and stuff like that. And I met my producing partner, Jonathan Duffy, there too. He worked there too. So we met there in 2003, I guess it was. And we didn't work together for 10 years on Pit Stop. Yeah. And
then you guys did 11 years there, and you didn't produce anything while you were there?
No, I produced my first feature, which was a small movie called Cinema 6 with Mark Potts, who was a Oklahoma filmmaker who had programmed his movies for years. And it was kind of a good opportunity to do something. And I took a couple weeks off work and we were working on this movie, and I realized I was like, oh, this is a lot like putting the festival together. It all kind of clicked. Making that movie. It was like, this is just like putting all the elements of the festival together, except when we're done, we actually have something tangible rather than an event that happened, you know? And I learned a lot on that movie. You know, I learned a lot doing, you know, we shot it mostly in Lockhart. You know, I got to work with like Barry Corbin was in it and Bill Hader was in it. Bill had just got on SNL at that time. And sort of called in a favor there. And so it was my first time to like deal with a manager and deal with an agent.
And then was that direct connection because you met them at the festival?
No, actually, I knew Bill's ex-wife from college. You know, so
he's phenomenal.
Yeah, but he has a small cameo. It's fun,
he's such a favorite.
So he's so phenomenal.
I could nerd out on that. Like, I'm a big Bill Hader fan.
He narrated a doc we did a couple years later. Beaver Trilogy Part 4.
So you're going to college here in Austin? Yeah, at UT. Right. And you're studying film there or no?
Yeah, I did RTF program there.
The RTF program. Yeah, okay. So. And then you're working at the film festivals, or you're working like at Subway?
Kind of simultaneously. I was volunteering at Cinema Texas, and I had an internship at Detour, which was like a dream. You know, I was like, not to be like that 90s Texas kid, but like Slacker was the movie that changed everything for me and the way I looked at cinema. And
Detour is Richard Linklater's production company at the time.
So this was around the time. This was right after Newton Boyce. So it was kind of a interesting time to be there. So, my first paid job was on Waking Life. I was a PA on Waking Life.
Oh, wow.
Really a fun experience.
Yeah. Which was another like mind-bending sort of movie to come out.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
It was great. And then it premiered, a while, over a year later at Sundance. And strangely enough, like that year, that's where I met Kat Candler at Sundance instead of here, even
It's
though we
very
both lived
strange,
here.
yeah.
And things like that. So it was a weird marker.
Wow, you were just like in the right place at the right
A little bit,
time.
yeah.
Like
I think so.
in the embryonic stage of so many things
Yeah, sometimes it feels that way. Yeah.
yet to come.
Yeah.
And then you kind of also met some Fort Worth boys too, right?
Yeah, I met James
James
Johnson and Yen Tan. Yen was living in Dallas
Mm.
then. I met those guys around that same time, around 04. Yeah. So really dating myself here with actual dates.
You're old.
I mean, it is 2052.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are. This is the future. We are all retired now.
Okay, so you've been working with Yen for a hot minute.
Yeah, a little while. Well, it was a while before we worked together. I met him, I think, in around 04, and then I was a big fan of his movie Chow, and that's actually when I got to know him. So, and then when he moved here, was when we started talking about working on Pit Stop together. So, yeah.
Was Pit Stop kind of your first big, like,
Yeah, it felt that way.
I've got the reins of producing this
Yeah.
thing, and it's a big beast of a movie, and the thing with
Yeah, a lot of moving
parts.
Yeah, it was, 20-day shoot, and,
Yeah.
it was in July, and the only thing we went over budget on was our ice budget because we were shooting in Texas.
What was the budget on it?
That was like $150.
Okay.
It was micro budget, and it was a labor of love. Everybody kind of got paid the same thing, and everybody did get paid the same thing across the board. And if they got paid at all, and then, and it was a movie I'm still pretty proud of.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
great. Yeah. So
His stuff's pretty timeless.
yeah.
Yeah.
It really, we had a 10-year anniversary last year, and Dallas Film Festival did a screening of it last fall. And it was, I hadn't seen it in probably, I don't know, at least 6-7 years. And so it was really refreshing to sit down and kind of like inspiring. I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that was a
The
whole
power
thing.
of cinema.
Yeah.
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 So how did you put that one together? How did you get that finance? And was that your first, like, because that's always what when I think of producers, I'm always like, you guys are the ones that are literally creating this opportunity for everybody else because you're trying to get things financed. And that's like the hardest part is to get someone to write a check for, go play make believe.
Right.
You know?
It is. And it's incredibly hard.
Yeah.
And that was really, I'll give a lot of credit to Jonathan on that one, because he kind of came in. That was the first thing we produced together. He was working, I believe, at UT actually. And he came on and we connected with a few local people, and that was bits and pieces. That was small amounts of money. And there was also a lot of grants. We got a lot of grants for that one, which was helpful. So from the Vilcek Foundation and AFS, and
Do you still use that method, grants, or?
It's harder now.
It is,
especially on larger movies.
Yeah.
I think if you're doing micro budget stuff, sub-million, you can kind of find grants for stuff. It's a little easier for docs.
Yeah.
But it's really hard on some of the projects we're doing now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That are more commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough.
What, because of the amount of money that you need? Or?
Sometimes, yeah. And the size of the movie, a lot of grants you want it to be a smaller film.
And sometimes your storyline doesn't fit necessarily what their objectives are, I think.
That's true.
That
but I
happen,
also
too.
feel like sometimes, like, I've had things that subject matter wise, I find the people I know with deep pockets, I'm like, how am I going to pitch this to them?
Yeah.
Like they're not necessarily like of the ilk where they're like real like keen on that risky kind of subject matter.
Right.
And they're also not real, they don't want to put their name necessarily to anything that like might not make its money back.
True.
And has a real sensitive subject matter either.
Yeah.
That's like trying raising money for a film like Sorry to Bother You, which took years.
Yeah.
Like that was.
I wanted to get into that because it was another one of those at that time, I feel like was a game changer in bending sort of how films are made.
Yeah.
And what that journey was like for you guys, because it was It was definitely, it broke through.
Yeah.
And you live in that world, I feel like, where it's like you're playing that gamble all the time with all the films you make, because you're making, you're backing real artists. You're making films that have substance and have value, that aren't just like, easily like, okay, we have so and so and so and so, and it's this genre and that, right? And so I think you're probably always playing a gamble game of like, hey, I'm believing in the artist and in the script, and I believe that we can find an audience.
Yeah. That's a good example of that, you know, that movie, which was really was a gamble, and it was, it came down to like really just Boots' vision ultimately.
Yeah.
It was hard you were either convinced by it or you weren't.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And I was a fan of his band, The Coup, for years. And so when Jonathan actually met him, and Jonathan was living in Oakland for many years, and met him there, and he called me one day and was like, hey, do you know this guy Boots Riley? I was like, from The Coup? And he was like, yeah. He was like, he gave me a script. And so, I was like, send it now.
Yeah.
So he emailed it to me, and I literally read it that night. And
you had to be like near the end, like, what the fuck is going on?
But being familiar with his work
it made sense.
as an artist, I was like, oh yeah, this makes total sense.
Yeah.
So,
and then how long did that journey take?
Oh, I can't remember totally. I think it was around 4 years.
4 years?
It took a long time to.
That's not too bad.
No, actually, it was faster than I thought it would be. And I think Boots was actually at a point where he was kind of maybe looking to do something else, or maybe not do that script. And it kind of got into the Sundance Producing Summit. It got into the Catalyst Lab, and then he got in the directing lab, and that gave it a lot of.
How much do those help getting into those?
The labs?
Yeah, they help a lot. Yeah.
And how so?
It's like, I used to call it the Sundance seal of approval.
Mm-hmm.
That's getting into the producing lab in 2012 was like a door opener for me. And that allowed me to like call an agent and say, oh, I have this Sundance lab project.
Okay.
That was a little bit easier
than just like, a
little easier than me just calling me like, I have this project.
Mm-hmm.
They still didn't call me back, but at least I got
that. Yeah. At least their assistant was impressed. But I think that was like, that helped to get the script read a lot.
Yeah.
By agents and stuff.
And was that 2012?
That was the Hellion Project.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
And then in your typical sort of path for getting something greenlit, are you going traditional? Or are you trying to go?
That's project by project.
Yeah.
It really is. Like everyone always asks, like, how do I get a movie financed? I'm like, that's
like by any way.
Yeah. Any way necessary.
Yeah.
It's literally sometimes the $1 million question.
Yeah.
But, and it really is. Every movie's totally different. Every movie has gotten financed like.
It's so true.
A totally different path. Like, every one of them. Yeah.
And I don't think there is a formula that is like, I mean, maybe for people who have output deals or something like that, but it's like, it's always like starting over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is. It is. I mean, producing in general is your Sisyphus. You're just pushing that boulder up the hill, and then it rolls right back down.
Right.
You start right back older.
Yeah.
Right back over. And it may be heavier this time. It may be lighter, but.
So what is it now that you're like, okay, I'll start pushing this boulder? Is it, I mean, there's probably a lot of factors. What are those factors? Not just one thing.
It's interesting because like the number one rule to producing, I feel like, is make sure you love that project. Because if you don't, you got to be living with that thing for.
See, but I feel like some producers are like, it's just all like, okay, it checks this box, checks that box.
Some people, I think, do approach it that way, and I think that there's some validity to that. But for me, it's like, I just want to make movies that I want to see. Too.
Yeah.
So something comes along that feels incredibly original or feels like just a movie I want to see.
Yeah.
As a film fan, that's kind of a big thing for me.
And then also the filmmaker probably too.
And the filmmaker too. Like, who are you going to be, in the trenches with? Someone you want to hang out with. And
and you get excited probably too when like Yen brings something else. You're like, probably it's like, it's our, it's like, okay, this is going to be.
Yeah. This is probably going to be a story I want to help tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. And then you're probably like, Yen, quit calling me. It's too hard.
Never.
So what movies did you like when you were growing up?
Growing up, whatever was playing at the local theater in Port Arthur, like that's the movie I liked, because it was just like every Friday we went to something.
Was it at AMC?
It was a General Cinema, dating me.
Yeah.
General Cinema and the United Artists. We had two.
Was it your parents who would take you?
My parents are not big film fans, but they would take me because it was my was what I was into.
It was the one thing.
It was the thing that made me happy.
Would you sneak into all the other ones? Like go to one and sneak into all the other ones? That's what I used to do.
I did that once I could drive.
Yeah.
I could drive myself, and I would just, I was that guy that would go with friends on Friday night, and then drive myself back Saturday, the first screening on Saturday, and watch it by myself again if I liked it.
Yeah.
Like I remember doing that with like Pulp Fiction and Jurassic Park and stuff like that.
Reservoir Dogs. I remember setting up a theater. Once I was able to get it on VHS, I set up a theater and I brought all my friends. I was like, "You have to see this."
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah. There was at that time there was just certain films that were just such game changers, and it made it accessible. I feel like
it's like, and there was things you have to show your friends.
Yeah,
I was that way with Slacker. I was just like, and my friends would drive them crazy. I don't think any of my friends liked that movie.
You're like,
but I could do this.
No, watch. Watch. Yeah. This guy did this.
Yeah.
So,
That's
my cousin and I were pretty obnoxious with certain movies, like where we would know every single bit of dialogue, and we would just play it over and over again and say it over and over again and act it out over and over again. Like, not.
I was kind of that way with like. I was a big SNL fan growing up.
We were. For us, it was the Young Ones.
Oh yeah, love the Young Ones.
We had all the Young Ones on tape, like that we would record on purpose, and then my little brother and I would watch it. And sometimes we wouldn't understand what they were saying in their British accent, and so we would just, it was like go directly to plate. It was like go Irish with the plate, like whatever that means. It doesn't mean anything to us, but that's how we said it because we didn't understand what they were saying, and we just thought it was the funniest thing ever. But it was like Breakfast Club and all the John Hughes movies. We were like huge fans, my cousin and I. And
right. Yeah, Young Ones was one of my favorites too. Young Ones, Kids in the Hall, all that sort of anything that wasn't American.
Yeah. Definitely SNL though too, like all that kind of comedy. Yeah. And there was like HBO on Location. Yeah. I don't know if you ever watched those, but we watched Richard Pryor and like all those comedians. They all had those like specials.
Right.
We watched all their specials. And we would watch them because we would record them on VHS, blank VHS tapes, and we'd watch them over and over again, and we would learn their comedy
I remember
bits.
I used to record shows.
Yeah. And then we would watch them over and over again.
What was the Reno 911 guys before that? They were on
The State. They were on
The State was incredible.
Yeah.
Big fan of The State. Yeah. They were just in town not too long ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
At the
Paramount? Moon Tower, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So what is your take right now on the industry? Because it's a crazy time.
I mean, that's a good question because like it's kind of anybody's guess right now in a way. I do think things are ultimately going to turn around.
In what way?
I'm hoping things turn around for the better for indie films.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that's my bread and butter.
Yeah,
but,
for sure. Yeah.
But I think like.
But what are you finding in the distribution game as far as like, because we just went through it with the long game, like what these streamers are paying and what's being offered and what opportunities you have, and not people going to the theater. Like Horizon was just like, whoa, this is scary.
Yeah, that was kind of a shocker.
Yeah.
That part is still a little, I'm still not sure about that because, I hate it when distributors say this isn't big enough for theatrical. I'm like, well, what really does that mean? I mean,
does not have Spider-Man in it.
Right. I know. But I mean, we had a pretty decent theatrical with What Happens Later.
Yeah.
And I think and that's a movie with two people in it. And it takes place in one location in an airport. And that got a good sizable
release, and it found an audience.
Yeah. And I think what made that, why is that, and I think it's really
that's such a question. Like, why does that?
That's what I think is like almost maybe they need to like tone down what the expectation of successful numbers are.
Yeah, and what like, honestly, just stop using the word small, which is very frustrating. It's like, does the story work? The story doesn't work for theatrical, maybe, or something like, tell me something else. Give me a better reason than it's.
I want to punch a wall right now.
Yeah,
so I'm just thinking about all the conversations that like we have around actors, and it's like value. Yeah, and it's like I'm always like, well, what does he write for the part?
Yeah, there's that too.
For the movie?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're like, but he's not worth enough in Japan.
Right.
You're like, okay.
Yeah.
Or is there a different way that...
That's what I'm like curious with him, because I'm like, we're forgetting that movies were stories.
Yeah. And is there a different way that we can have people enjoy going to the movies? Does it always have to be this big da 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 da? Like, do we have to draw masses? And, you know, of course it's going to take Spider-Man to draw masses. It's going to take big visual effects and explosions to draw masses. And then you're going to try to draw them with like even the long game, you know, something that's like a nice story, and the people that are just like a family are going to have to fight through all that.
It becomes a Taylor Swift concert. It has to be a Taylor Swift concert.
They're not, they're not going to want to fight through all that. They just want to see a simple story, and they think they're going to fight through all that. They might as well just sit at home and watch it on their computer or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like there has to be like some sort of like landscape for it all to exist.
Is there something you found with that smaller movie that, sorry, I didn't mean to be smaller.
Yeah, no. Stop calling it. Stop using the word smaller. No,
what would be the PC term?
Because think about like in the 70s and 80s, it's like in the 70s and 80s, that's just what the movie was. It's like you went to the cinema to go see a story about like, you know, two people who were like having a tough day at the office.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, it was supposed to relay back to you what your life was like. They were relationship movies.
Like
they
Kramer
were family movies.
Kramer would not get made.
No, it wouldn't. It would have to be made indie.
Yeah, it was a divorced family. Like anyone was going to leave their house to go watch a family get divorced. Like, they're not going to do that today. They're going to watch it on the fucking computer. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's like, why? Well, how are we going to get them to go to the theater? Well, like, we have to make funky popcorn buckets and like, what?
Well, now they're doing the seats shake.
Oh, for God's sake.
Yeah. Like, and there's like wind and stuff going. Yeah. So now it's going to be a whole thing. It's a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Why?
Now you're riding a roller coaster.
We have to figure out what that's about.
I think some of that comes from the theaters taking chances too. Not to put it on them. It's kind of everybody's fault in a way. Audiences, theaters, distributors, filmmakers.
Can you briefly explain what that risk is for theaters to take?
I think it's playing more films, you know, that are risk-taking movies, you know, that you know, giving that screen, you know, maybe screen Minions 18 like one less time. So
Inside Out was on, I think it went to Alamo, I think it was on 5 screens.
Yeah, like why? And also, like, give something a chance.
Well, you talk
like I can barely figure it out, and it's gone.
That's the other problem.
And like movies... I can't keep up with all that. Like, give a thing a minute. People are busy. Like this summer alone, we've got European Championships. We've got, you know, the Copa America, Wimbledon at the same time as like, you know, people are on their summer holidays with their families. You know, there's a lot going on.
And those are all sports.
Yes.
There's the UK elections. There's the French election.
Yeah. Yes. And then there was the debate. Like there's a lot going on aside from like Horizon comes out, you know, and it's like, give me a minute.
And you also have to scroll for 5 hours.
Let's just like let things be there for a minute for us all to go to.
Movies used to, that's the other chance that theaters aren't giving, and maybe distributors aren't either, but they're not giving a film a chance to build an audience.
Yes.
And even something, you know, even big movies, like they're out streaming within like 2 months.
That's what I mean. Is like
that's no fun. You know,
now the deal's like a 3-week window. You get a 3-week run.
Yeah,
and that's it.
You've got to.
And Kevin talked about it with Horizon. He was like, "You guys, like, give it a chance to. It's like it doesn't live or die on the first." And that's the sort of sort of like I feel I have that same judgment. I'm like, it didn't make $500 million this weekend.
Yeah,
I guess it's a flop.
There was something that just came out. I can't think of what it is, but now it's streaming, and I was like, oh, I would have gone to see that, but I guess now I'll just watch it on the computer.
Right.
I'm paying for the subscription. I might as well.
I was gonna go see that in the theater, but I guess it's out now on the thing. Okay.
Yeah, nothing gets to stay long enough to build an audience or build a proper word of mouth.
Yeah, like give us a minute. I mean, there's a lot going on in the people's lives that like
it feels very rare that you see something like I saw the TV Glow, which stayed in theaters for a while and it built an audience and then suddenly it was on VOD. You know, and it felt like, oh, is this just marketing for the VOD release in a way? You know?
Yeah.
So talk about how much control you have in that scenario.
With the theatrical, not that much.
Yeah.
You know,
I think to let people understand that like the filmmaker loses control
once you sell it.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. You may be able to work in like certain things like marketing, approval and things like that, or you know, but for the most part, yeah.
And what's so crazy to me is they come in and they're like, almost always like, we're gonna change the name.
Yeah.
We're gonna, and then they cut a trailer. You're like, this is not what the movie's about.
Well, many industries are like that. I mean, actors don't get to choose, like in the edit. So much of your performance is made in the edit, and you don't choose any of that. Novelists are the same. Like they don't choose what the cover of their book looks like.
I've just seen movies ruined by, I guess, like the candy, the easy grab. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The easy, and it's like, it's not, but you have no, and then you're left in this partnership, and you're like, you kind of have to go with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to own it.
I mean, you seem to have done such a great job by delivering movies in this range and that have stayed true to the story and the message. I mean, that's why I'm kind of asking, is there something that about your process that like you feel gives you that control to kind of get the vision all the way to the people?
That's a good question, but not specifically. Again, it comes down to every movie's a little different, and you nurse every movie the way it needs to be, and you kind of you raise it right. Hopefully it does well. And I think we've been pretty lucky in that sense. We've had one title changed, and like Hellion the name was changed to Retribution in I think in like the UK or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This Hellion didn't translate, but other than that, we've never had a title change.
I still use Hellions when I see kids walking down the street. Look at those little.
Look at that Hellion, yeah.
Saturday Morning Massacre was changed to Saturday Morning Mystery.
That's
when it went on Amazon.
Yeah. I wonder why. Do you know why?
I think there was a lot of school shootings going on at the time, and the word massacre was being used, and so they.
I'm surprised they didn't keep it at massacre just to get the extra.
Just to sell.
Although mystery plays into the whole Scooby-Doo part of it, though.
Yeah,
I know. So it wasn't terrible necessarily.
Yeah.
So do you think that you think maybe I'm trying to put a through line here together that you've through your partnerships and being a programmer and meeting the right companies, like you've protected these films by developing the right relationships and in partnering with companies that have the same sort of ethical beliefs as you do about cinema.
Yeah, and you wish you could make every movie with some of those companies.
Yeah.
Leyline's a good example of that, where like, if they get involved in a project, it's because they love it probably just as much as you do. And it's not necessarily checking those boxes, like,
So you're finding distributors that are aligned with like, hey, we want to tell good stories.
Yeah, hopefully, sometimes you don't always get that with distributors particularly, but with financiers, you try to find that.
Yeah.
That's, if you can, that's the hard part.
Yeah.
But with distributors, it's a little harder, I think. You look at something like What Happens Later, that Bleecker Street put that out, and that sort of felt like very much like a Bleecker Street movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they knew that too.
Yeah.
And so we couldn't have asked for a better partner in that film.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so at this point, when you're raising financing, you're kind of going to a bullpen of companies that you sort of trust and know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
then, from time to time. But then, you kind of know, like, sometimes we might be reading a script and we're like, this kind of feels like a project for so-and-so.
Yeah.
Do we think we could take it to them? And then if they pass, then it's like, then you're starting all over
again. Yeah. And how much are you fully having to package stuff before you get it financed?
For the most part, fully packaging a lot of times.
And so that's the whole chicken and the egg, right?
Yeah.
How do you handle that process?
Honestly, like the packaging part can be pretty fun.
Yeah.
But it also can be tough and take a while.
Yeah. From what aspect though?
It's fun from like a creative aspect, actually, because you're kind of like putting this little piece together, this project together and what it could be,
Do you feel like you definitely have to have stars?
Depends on the script, but usually for financing,
Mm-hmm.
And the budget.
And the budget you want. Yeah. Even on a small, it's a weird thing where, like, I was talking to a filmmaker about this recently, where it's like, yeah, we could do this as a micro budget, but for the micro budget film to then turn around and get bought and make money, we still also need a recognizable face.
Yeah.
It's kind of tough, where it's like, you want to do a micro budget so you can cast who you want.
Right.
And that makes it.
Are you a producer that goes out with the money's in the bank and you're making offers, or you're attaching people to go get the money? Like, that's always like really tricky.
That's also super hard, because it's like most of the time we're attaching someone. So very, it's more fun when you have the money.
Yeah, for
you're like,
sure.
oh yeah, we're shooting this in the fall, and it's this amount
What's
of
the
money.
availability?
Yeah.
Here's the script. Here's the offer. Yeah.
And
I mean, I often say like when we're tasked to cast stars, it's not that hard. It's just checking avails. It's just like sending this. It's just it's basically you have the relationships, and you're just hoping that the filmmaker resonates with that person. Way different than we have no money.
It's way different. Yeah, and I think but with trying to attach a star is so hard, and I think directors forget how long it takes.
Yep. And how much is coming at this small group of folks?
Yeah.
How much opportunity is there, and the gatekeepers that are there that are mostly money motivated, and so they're protecting to try to get the that time. When I try to tell people, I'm like that calendar space has value, and they're holding off for the highest bidder for that space.
Yeah, that's a great way of looking at it. Yeah, because that's important.
Yeah. I mean, so many actors too have read something, loved it, and then said, I just can't do it.
Yeah. We've had that happen a lot.
Yeah. I'd love to do it, but I can't.
Yeah. Just can't afford it. Can't afford the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That happens a lot. But yeah, it's such a long process too, especially when you don't have money.
Yeah.
Because if you're trying to attach that lead, and directors forget it's not going to go to the top of the stack. Even if you're friends with them, it probably won't go to the top of the stack.
Yeah.
That Marvel movie is going to go to the top.
Dude, and when you're friends with them, it's even harder because it's like there's this line, and it's like, look, man, you sure about this? This is your one one ask.
Yeah.
And you might get thrown in a different bucket after this.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Like people will come to me all the time just because where we sit, we work closely with people. I'm like, there's so many people in this process. I can't cut around.
Yeah.
I have to do it, or I'm going to get in trouble. Like people just don't understand how political and complicated and hard it is. They're like, oh, but Matt Damon would love it.
Yeah. And you're like,
maybe.
We were like, why don't they love
pull
it?
that trigger right now for you.
Yeah.
Why don't they love it as much as I do? That's always, it's like.
Yeah, there is this weird, I've been thinking about this too. There's this weird sense of like, if you love an idea, you should just work for free and just work really hard or something on it.
Yeah.
Like people call me and they're it's like, no, it's a great script, but like you're asking me for 3 years of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing. You got to love that project.
Yeah.
And the truth is no one, and particularly with writer directors, like no one's going to love that movie more than they do.
Yep.
The producer should be second in line.
Yes.
They should love it almost as much.
Yeah.
If not equal. So, yeah.
Well, but also you have to exist in between.
Yeah.
You have a mortgage to pay and
exactly.
a mouth to feed.
The amount of work that you do and producers do they do not get paid for, and the amount of time spent.
Yeah.
You're probably making $250 an hour.
Yeah, or less.
Yeah.
Like people don't understand. And then you're the one, once everybody goes home and it's 3 years and there's renegotiations or whatever, it's like it falls on you.
Yeah.
And you're not getting paid for that necessarily for all that.
Not at all. I still do accounting for Pit Stop, a movie that was shot 12, 13 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like, and I will do that for forever,
Yeah.
So maybe not.
What are some of those?
Hopefully not forever.
Right.
We'll
Hopefully AI creates something that
Yeah.
handles it for you. What responsibilities do you have still for Pit Stop?
Nothing major, but just some accounting stuff and still talking to the distributor and
For residuals
for that movie. Yeah.
So, I mean, but that is work. It's
it is work. It's, it's funny. Like I think that movie probably, about 2 days worth of work every year.
Yeah.
Full days of work, or 2 or 3 for a movie that was, shot in 2012.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then you look at your career and there's a massive amount.
Yeah.
Like
they add up.
They add up.
Yeah.
And that's not no one's paying you. No one's saying you have to. It's
Right.
like you're doing that just kind of out of the responsibility and kindness of your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I say packaging is the most fun, but it's also doesn't pay you.
Yep.
Rarely does development pay you.
Yep.
Development's a lot of fun.
Never. Yeah. Everyone's always looking for development money. I'm like, what era are you living in?
Yeah. This is like the 90s.
Yeah. Development funds. Like, who's going to finance that?
Right.
The thousands of auditions I've prepared for and not booked.
Yeah.
Have never paid.
It's something I
over
totally
years and years of my life, and hours of memorization of lines and creation of characters that have never existed.
Right.
Just for an opportunity that
I
never
feel like
pans
actors
out.
have it so bad because it's like, well, you love this, right?
Yeah.
You want to do this, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
You're going to drop everything and just create this thing that never pans out.
Put this character together. Yeah, no, I get it. It's very comparable. I've always kind of thought about that.
And my friend of mine who's an actor, we were talking yesterday actually, and he brought up a fact where he was like, I think we actually get paid for the work that how did he describe it? We get paid for when we're not working or something. It's like everyone thinks that like it's so great on the day, right? It's all fancy. It's like first team coming in, you know, or whatever. And it's like because we get this huge paycheck, you know, it's like this big false like equivalent of like you get paid this like big giant paycheck on the day, but then it's like you don't work again forever.
Yeah.
And it's like that's supposed to last you for all this time that you're not working, you know, and it's like that's really what you're hoping to get, you know, the big paycheck is for is when you're not working. And I'm like, and that's why we were striking was because it had all gone topsy-turvy. Now we're not being paid equivalent to what is going to sustain us when we're not working because the contracts are all fucked up these days. And so that's why we were striking because, you know, when the last, like, I think it was Cillian Murphy was, you know, the reason he only was able to make one movie a year and exist was because of Peaky Blinders. It was like one of the last working contracts in the UK or whatever that was equivalent to like a Friends or a Seinfeld where things would go into, you know,
syndication.
Yes, and you could exist on a TV show, you know, and it's like now it doesn't work like that. It's like I think I just did a thing recently that I've never seen a residual check for, not a single one.
Yeah.
And it's like how they got around that by like tacking them on to the beginning, that like they're paying you your residual equivalent up front. And like they totally snuck that in. I don't know if y'all realize that, but they wrapped it into our contract up front. These would be your residuals. And so we're tacking it onto your rate of pay on the day. So then you never get a residual because you've already gotten it like an advance, sort of
Seems very odd. It's classic Hollywood accounting right there. That is some shifty Hollywood accounting. I've never seen that, but
Yeah, so that's how they got around a lot of these Netflix shows not paying any of these stars any residuals. That's how they got around it. That's why that's one of the reasons we were all on strike. We were like, this isn't working, you guys. Because we're all like starving.
I saw someone sent me something yesterday where the art department union was like only 5% is working
right now.
And saying that they can't consciously tell people to follow this
to go do it anymore because that's a lot to do with AI and stuff. Like I'm really worried about all of those people.
Yeah, what is your views on because you know the industry is going to start using it.
Right. No matter how much we fight it and not want to fight it or not want it to be part of it, people will start using it.
And it's just like I think you could look at like Newsom doing $20 an hour in for minimum wage, and now all these robotic restaurants are starting.
Right.
It's like they just won't do it. You know.
It's like you can't win.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm a little worried about the crafts people, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm worried about that. It's a little bit
like if you go into sports.
Always suck. No, I'm kidding.
If you go into sports or video games, I feel like you'll be okay. But
really?
I feel like.
What do you mean, like?
Like I think sporting, any kind of sports stuff, and any kind of video game stuff is going to be okay.
Video game stuff, really?
Yeah, but I feel like the crafts people of cinema might be in a little bit of trouble. Like if you watch the coverage of the European Championships right now, the 4 hosts are just literally stood in a warehouse and everything's green screen from the top to the bottom. They're not stood on anything real. It's all graphics all around them. All they need on that set is a wardrobe person and maybe lighting, camera.
Yeah.
But nobody's designed a set. They're not on location anywhere. They saved all the money on putting these people anywhere internationally. Nobody's in, you know what I mean? Nobody was flown anywhere.
Well, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think for films, though, I think if that starts to happen more, which it already is with like Star Wars shows and, you know, the volumes and things like that. Like if that starts to happen, our eyes may not like that after a while. And I'm hoping we revert back to wanting something a little more tangible, so to speak. All that said, though, anything to make driving shots easier would be great for indie films.
Well, that's my question for you.
It's the hardest thing.
So that's my question, because I feel like, you know, it's almost like when people come here to film in Texas and they're like, I'm going to film Texas. I'm all Texas.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, if you go there, you save $350,000.
Yeah.
And that is just 10 feet that way and it looks just like this. And people are like, we're going there.
Yeah.
Right? And so I feel like as a producer, like it's so hard. Like, I don't know that people understand how hard it is to get an indie film made that like, if you're like, hey, we can save $500,000 if we use this, look, it's just background or it's just this or just that. Like,
yeah. What about Mark Bristol's story about moving in that entire oil rig?
Right, yeah.
From his movie.
Yeah.
What if he didn't have to do any of that?
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Piece by piece, he had to move in that entire...
And I get it, because like I've been with directors like, no, it needs to be a real chandelier.
Yeah.
And it's like, I never know it was as an audience member. I'm like, I don't know it was a real chandelier.
Right.
But like at some point, like to get like the 10 people working, it's like you're going to make those sacrifices. I mean,
right.
I mean, how do you
I'm not sure where you draw the line.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's already tough to want to tell stories that, tell regional stories.
Yeah.
And not get to tell it in the region you want to tell it.
Yep.
That's hard.
Yeah.
I think
Texas has been crushed because New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Louisiana, they're all got killer rebates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Killer rebates.
Yeah. We're doing El Paso and it was literally like, we can go right there.
Right there. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I think it's, sometimes All That We Love was a film that was written for us and we ended up shooting in LA for many, many reasons. And at one point we were like, do we try to double it? And Yin was just like, no, it takes place in LA.
Yeah.
It takes place here.
Yeah.
Because it's a universal story.
Yeah.
But some stories, are very specific to
the region
where it takes place.
Yeah.
We had a project that was based in East Tennessee, and some powers that be wanted it to be shot in LA, and was just like, we can't double. Even with a week of pickups,
right?
It won't look right. It just
But
won't.
now
look
you have
right.
Sora, and you're like, okay, we can double Tennessee.
Yeah, we can make the architecture slightly different, or we can make I
think we're in for some hard decisions and choices to make,
and it's all going to come on like that.
Yep.
And we're not going to be ready.
And then it's going to be the excitement of, oh well, Tyler Perry's using it, he's using it, they're using it, and oh my god, it looks great. I mean, you're seeing already with the de-aging.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Right.
And it's like, oh, you can have the real Martin Luther King in your scene. Wow. Sort of.
Yeah. You went there.
I mean, that's going to be hard decisions to make, right? I mean, they scanned everybody, like everyone, and it's such a huge revenue stream. And I've heard actors say, they're like, look, if I can be working but not working and still making money, like that's fantastic.
Yeah.
It
is interesting to think about, like doing, being able to do like a sequel to something you never thought you would do a sequel to.
I mean, I feel like nobody's talking, like Ashton Kutcher was just on with the Google exec and he was talking about it. I feel like it's like, and it's not like we want it, but it's like, okay, how do we keep doing what we want to do? It's just a lot of hard decisions are going to have to be made.
Yeah.
And it's going to come down to money. And then the money, as is always like, I can save.
Yep.
Maybe it won't happen in our lifetime, but it may have to go to that extreme.
It's happening this year.
No, not that. I don't mean that.
It's happening. No. Let me Google.
Yeah.
No, not that. I mean, that will happen. But I mean like the counter, like it.
I want vinyl. I want real experience.
We all come back around to
because I think
tangible.
I'm seeing like little sparks of it. Like even yesterday I was watching a thing on Instagram that was showing the behind the scenes of the Titanic, where it was where they built the staircase and they flooded it, and it's pretty wild and impressive to watch. Where you're just like, how the fuck did nobody die? Yeah, like. And you're watching and all the cameras and you're like, how are they I mean, it's just water everywhere and human beings just screaming and it's amazing. And it looks like it's really, really about to flood and people are about to die. And the comments in there are like, this is awesome. This feels so cool. Look at good old filmmaking back in the day when they used real stuff. Today, this would have all been CGI. This is so cool. How did nobody really die? People were into it. And then at the same time, it's like Darren, my husband, is off from his job in the summer, and he's been going out to all of these screenings this summer of like, I guess a lot of it's the Paramount summer screenings, and it's like all of these like really old 1970s film noir movies or whatever, just like weird random old shit that's showing at the Paramount and stuff. And he keeps coming home and he's like, it'll be at AFS or Paramount. And he's like, Heather, I can't get over it. It's like, a random Tuesday night in the middle of the week, and it's packed.
Yeah.
It's absolutely packed. At the Paramount, it's like sold out. And it's like some fuzzy 35 millimeter print. And, you know, some of it's like out of focus. And I'm looking, and it's young people. Like, these people are not, like, they're younger than us. It's the next generation.
Yeah.
And they're out there, and they bought tickets, and it's a random Monday night, and they're all coming out, and it's sold out. And it keeps happening over and over and over again.
Their phones out and they're recording it.
No.
The Paramount Summer Film Series was a supplement to my film education. I always felt like
Really?
every summer, like just at least 2 or 3 times a week there.
He's like, I can't believe how crowded it's been every time I go to one of these things, whether it's at AFS or the Paramount, and it's just a cross section of people who are out there, and a lot of them are young. And I can't believe that this is what they're choosing to do with their time.
Yeah.
And they're not at home on their phones, and that people are actually coming to this. There's not a lot of advertisement for it. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And like, how are they finding their way to this? And is there like a scene happening? And people are wanting this, and like people are talking about like buying DVDs and stuff.
Yeah.
And like, is there something sort of bubbling underneath that people are wanting physical media, and that people might be coming up in the younger generations who are gonna probably at some point reject all of this?
Hopefully. I mean, you know, you can't replace a good old fashioned stunt.
Right?
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can't, like, the hardest working people on a set, but it's like, you can't replace, you know, when it's real.
Yeah.
You know when it's not CGI. And I think that's something I think people will hopefully hold on to. But yeah, I think maybe it'll get computer heavy and AI heavy and then come back around.
That's why I think it might not be in our lifetime, but I think it might go back to where human beings find a moment where they're like, that felt different.
Yeah.
And why? And investigate it, and then go back to it and miss the sort of three-dimensional human touch of things.
We've always rejected a lot of things, though. I mean, like when Ted Turner tried to colorize old movies, like that got rejected. When like, I remember in like the 80s,
right?
like Humphrey Bogart was in an ad for Coke or something, and everyone got really mad.
That's
you know,
right,
like it's like things like that. Like holograms never took off. You know, a couple years ago.
Right, yeah.
It's like, so we have always rejected a lot of that fake stuff. So hopefully that happens sooner than we think it might. So we'll see.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
John's like, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. Yeah.
We're screwed.
Here's what I think for people like us. I feel like, especially with what you've cultivated with the work that you've done, that you have a brand, and that brand resonates with certain people, and it's how are you going to connect with those people to keep doing what you want to do. And I think that the entertainment companies are going to find new ways to entertain. They're going to find cheaper ways to entertain, and it's going to be cotton candy. It's going to be crap, right? And they're gonna overwhelm people with advertising to get them to get their money from them. But again, people that want quality are going to seek out storytellers and stuff like that. And so it really, I think, and it's the only time that we necessarily we'll be able to find platforms that we can monetize this stuff, and we don't have to depend on these major studios and these streamers, right?
That's the hard part.
Yeah. I mean, because my kids will seek out, like I just went to a thing in Houston with my kid that it was a release of 2 new episodes of a YouTube show. They're not bound to anybody, and they have millions of followers, and you know what I mean? And they've sold tons of merch, and they, made a bunch of money. And so it's like, they figured out a way to monetize what they do, and there's no release dates. There's no, I think that becomes super interesting to me with our skill set.
Where was that?
In Houston.
But like where a release, like where?
It was at the Houston Christians College Theater. It wasn't religious. It was just, that's what the theater they rented. We went last year.
They rented a theater.
We went last year to LA and did it.
So they kind of four-walled it.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
And I think you have
for the premiere of their own show.
Wow. On their own show.
That's rad.
Yeah. And now they did 2 cities last year, and they're doing 6 cities this year.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's where we find this real opportunity,
smart.
is to find, like you said, Paramount, and be like, find that audience and bring them there. Yeah. But and then
also,
using certain tools to lower that how much it costs, right?
That's the hard part.
Yeah.
Because four-walling a movie is so incredibly expensive and so incredibly time consuming that, getting a movie out there is one of the hardest things.
Yep.
And, luckily for these YouTube shows, like they already have a following. But, getting a movie like No Future out there, incredibly hard. A movie about grief, you know?
Right, exactly.
And that's something too that, you know, is hard. I don't think a computer can replicate human emotion. So not yet, but like it, you know, movies about like everyday life.
Yeah, but so you take Yin creates clips. He has a warehouse and he's working every day to create clips and create, you know, this type of movable content, right? And then that builds up your audience, right? Which he can shoot on phones and stuff like that. And then you guys do a long form and then you go out. You already have the audience built. And I just think we have to rethink, you know, Scorsese said it best. He's like, look, you can do a 90-minute movie. You can do a 9-minute movie. Can you hold attention? And it doesn't matter. There's no more rules, you know?
Yeah.
So like Yin could have an idea for a 12-minute thing, do it. It finds its audience. It doesn't cost us that much to do because it is just two humans, right?
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing. And then he starts building up. And that's what I'm saying with your body of work. You guys have built up a sort of reputation, and you guys have qualified yourselves as like really good storytellers. And now it's like, how do you take all that and then take the power and the control and then monetize that, you know? And I think that's where the future holds for people like us.
Is there a place for like a new types of venues, like new types
There's
of...
that, but there's also platforms out there where you can, you know, you like people like, you know, for this, which we don't do, which we could find people that support the show, that support, you know what I mean?
But like, I mean, new types of, you know, evenings out.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like for people like us, it's not just either the big cinemaplex or the small art house, but maybe like, you know, some other type of destination in between.
Yeah. I think we might see a rise of the micro cinema.
Yeah.
I hope. You know, I know like Hyperreal Film Club is building one, and the East Side Cinema at the Millennial. Like, you know, we might see that. I hope that becomes a thing. It becomes a trend.
Dino, a friend of mine, he did a film, and it was a horror film, and he went to horror houses. He went 21, did 21 and set up a inflatable thing and did screenings there.
Yeah.
Like that and that brings people together. That seems like it's community and environment, which becomes more of those things where you're seeing people at the Paramount because they are so isolated. They want to connect.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's where we start to live.
Yeah.
And we can't compete with AMC 7-plex with 5 Inside Out and 5 theaters.
I mean, it's just like if we reimagined a night out, you know, or like these destinations for people. There's all these dead malls and, you know, dead like places like, you know, Brody Oaks up here is going to be dead. And we're creating places that are like, you know, retail below and living above. And if we just sort of like reimagined, you know, what we want from a night out, that makes it, you know, ease of parking, but also like, what do we want from it? Like, you know, do we want food, and like what kinds of things do we want? You know, how we could offer that in like a cinema landscape, as far as
that brings it back to full circle, which is quality, which is what you're after. Stories of quality. Yeah. And people want that's the thing we can feel. Right. Like I can go to a movie and be like, this is just like formulaic.
Yeah. You know? Yeah. But instead making it like how we
quality experience.
Like, a quality experience, how we would want to spend time.
I keep saying humanity becomes a niche market. Like, the human experience and humanity is a niche market.
Everything's becoming niche.
Yeah.
But like we're gonna be so intertwined with technology and wearing it and integrated with it. I mean, some of the stuff that I go deep on this stuff, and they're like, there will be no difference. Like it's not gonna be about a bone. It's just you.
Right.
Because right now, I don't feel like it has to be like so retro, and I don't feel like for us to enjoy it, but I feel like right now it also doesn't have to be like such a pain in everyone's ass, which is what it feels like right now, which is like, oh my God, it's going to cost a fortune to park. I'm going to have to find parking, then I'm going to have to QR code every fucking thing. I'm going to have to fucking get my tickets before, and then when I get in, there's going to be, you know what I mean? It's like...
I don't like buying tickets ahead of time.
I don't either.
Even if I'm planning to go to a movie.
I don't either.
And I don't like assigned seats.
I don't.
I know where I like to sit. I'll get there 30 minutes.
Right? I just want to be able to effortlessly like do the thing as I'm doing it. I don't want to have to fucking pre-plan everything and fucking register and give you my email.
It takes the fun out of the experience.
Create an account and all this shit.
I went to a dollar cinema with
I want to get off my fucking phone. And yet everywhere I go, you make me get back on it. I got a QR code a menu. I got a QR code this. I got a fucking... I would like to get off my fucking phone.
It's going to be in your ear. It's going to be in your brain.
No, I don't think it has to be.
Are you excited about the thing that plays before the movies? It tells you to turn off your inner chip.
No, fucking
So I took my kids to a dollar cinema. Like I forget what we went and saw. I think we went and saw what was it? Out of Bootsy or something like that. I don't know.
Bootsy?
Yeah, it was like a couple years ago, and it was $2 cinema, right? And we went in and we got the tickets and we got the and I was like, wherever you guys want. They're like, what? We can sit wherever we want.
Oh my God.
They're like, oh my God, yeah, let's go over here, let's go over there.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing about AFS.
Yeah,
I hope they don't go to assigned seating.
Yeah.
No, just like some freedom, free will, freedom of choice to just freely like do a thing at the moment.
I think that's what is going to emerge of humans. Be like, I don't want to be so like, that's so funny because I'm like, dude, QR code.
Like everywhere you fucking go, I'm like, stop ordering me around with my phone. I just want to be able to do a thing. Like we were just at a fucking coffee shop the other day and I was like, I wanted to order a taco from the taco truck outside. And I was like, do they only take cash? And she goes, yes, but you can QR code and order online.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, for God's sake. And so Darren went out there and he QR codes and we order online. And then it says your taco will be ready at 2:45. And he goes out there at 2:45 and she was like, oh, I'm sorry, it didn't go through. And I'm like, can I just tell you, I just want a fucking egg and cheese taco. You're right there. Can I just tell you?
Ordering on your phone in front of the truck.
Yes. I'm like, can I just tell you?
Now I know how to upset Heather. Is put a QR code.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't like it.
By the way, is there a QR code for that?
No, there's no QR code.
We're going to
have
a QR code on the screen.
There is a link tree, but with no QR code.
Anyway, we're at a time, and then we have to have you and Yin back. Is that coming out soon? Or
hopefully, more on that soon.
Okay. Will you let us know so we can have you guys back to promote that?
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, for sure.
Is my karaoke still in it?
Oh, it's in there.
Oh, goody.
It's in there.
You'll have to tune in and hear my amazing karaoke far in the background of
and
this
your
movie.
podcast cameo.
Oh, my podcast. Yeah. Thanks to this show, I pre-auditioned to be a podcast host in their movie.
No, it's a interior design podcast that's playing on the radio. That is Heather's cameo in that.
Awesome.
And it was when we were talking about whose voice is that going to be. It was like I was like, Heather's got a great podcast voice.
Yes, she does. She does.
Yay! I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, man. We really appreciate
thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, and carry on and save the world, save cinema.
Yeah, well, one movie at a time.
Please keep.
Yeah, just go to our QR code and
keeping on
and donate.
Please scan our QR code and blow up the world.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, dude.
Our show today was recorded in studio by the good folks at Record ATX. Check them out at recordatx.com. Our theme music is produced by Jonathan Price. You can check out some of the sounds he makes with his project, The Mid-Cities, on Spotify. Follow, subscribe, and smash that like button if you see one. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.